Hey everyone, welcome to today's show on Wealth Strategy Secrets. Today we're joined by Erik Cabral. Erik left corporate America after 20 years and jumped headfirst into real estate investing in order to achieve financial freedom. Educating himself, building networks, and analyzing hundreds of deals, he purchased his first multifamily building in less than 1 year. He's also a partner in the Renault Winery and Resort. Erik is the founder of the media agency OnAir Brands. With multiple businesses, partnerships, and podcasts, Erik is the quintessential serial entrepreneur who spends much of his time helping others grow their businesses, brands, and reputation. Erik loves to share his decades of experience in creative branding and marketing strategies, as well as helping others leverage the power within the podcasting platform. Erik sits on the board of a real estate investor group and is also a proud member of GoBundance and lives in central New Jersey with his wife and 2 daughters. Erik, my friend, good to see you, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. It's funny always hearing your own bio. I'm like, man, there's some things I want to edit in there, like
Yeah.
serial entrepreneur. I remember that being a cool, sexy thing. And now in hindsight, through everything I've experienced, especially lately, I'm like, yeah, that just sounds to me as like unfocused. But thanks for that, man. I got to update that.
Well, you got a lot of things going on, that's for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, really a lot of things going on. I'm going to have fun. We've been looking forward to this interview. Been on your podcast before, which was an absolute blast. Still one of my, top memories. In addition to, Podmax and what you guys created, which is just so innovative. What you put together. So we'll jump into that and some other good stuff. But I mean, for folks, who aren't familiar with you and, your background, I mean, kick us off with your journey. How did it all start for you?
Yeah, brother. I think of this time when I used to drive an hour and a half to this job that you referenced when I was in corporate America. It was an hour and a half each way. And I was just miserable, man. I was a big fat mess. I just wasn't exercising, wasn't eating right. I wasn't getting much sleep. I was a corporate executive, 6 figures. So why didn't I feel happy and fulfilled? Well, I was just grinding, man. I wasn't doing the proper things to take care of myself and my mental health and well-being and my spirituality. And it was just like money, 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 right? And I was given the task by my corporate heads to let go of the entire staff. They said, yeah, we're closing up shop. We're going to outsource everything to India and to Ireland. So the 5 people that you started with, that you grew to 25 people, and the $500,000 flat when you walked in to now 2.5 million that you helped us build in about a year. Thanks, but no thanks. We're going to shut it all down. And I was like, wow. So I'm driving, Dave, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to this job. It's not going to be my job anymore. They gave me 3 months to lay everyone off, and I'd be the last. And I'm listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's book. And I'm literally punching the steering wheel, man, out of like anger and frustration and inspiration to like freaking do something with my life. I'm like, man, this guy is the pill, man. I call him the purple pill. The book's the purple pill. And once I realized, assets versus liabilities and like my time is valuable and, creating value and adding value to a business or to an asset, all these things were new to me, ESBI. And man, all my life I had been in the quadrant. And I was like, no more. I'm going to live in every quadrant. I'm going to transition. I told my wife, I'm becoming a real estate investor. And she's like, what are you talking about? You know nothing about real estate. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to figure it all out. And I'm blessed to have her in my corner, to have people in my corner that trusted in my decisions and that I had the drive, passion, and intelligence to set forth on something new. And that's really what happened, man. Like that broke open and opened the door for me to create everything that you know of and where I am today.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that, Erik. The purple pill. It's, I mean, there are so many case studies. I mean, he should almost have like a reunion, right? And you gather all the people and see the success from when his book came out, and really in the late '90s, and to see what have people accomplished based on his book. And I think, really part of that core concept is it's all about financial education. And it's really amazing, right? Because we're just not taught that anywhere. We're not taught it in school. It's not, you can't even go and take a class on it anywhere. It's learned through podcasts, right? Or reading, from other people, or networking and things like that. So he's right on the money that, education is sorely missed, and we need more of it. And, I feel like it's, part of our mission, folks like us, to just help other people, discover that there's other ways to, create value as an entrepreneur, other ways to, drive income instead of being handcuffed to that W-2 position.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's just so many things. We were fortunate enough to interview him on one of our shows, and he was unaware at the time that he had that effect, or he was being extremely humble. He was like, "Oh, what? I did what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you ever hear bigger pockets, bigger what?" Like, he had no idea about these things. That you listen to every Bigger Pockets podcast, and 98% of them will say Rich Dad Poor Dad was the pill that started them on the path.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. I think he may be aware now, because he was on the Bigger Pockets podcast. But yeah, he's an amazing dude, man. He's changed a lot of lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool, because I think, everything is focused on basically how to make money. You're learning a particular skill set, and it's all about trying to make money. But there's nowhere that talks about, how do you actually protect and grow your money, right? And clearly the wealthy have figured this out, but there needs to be just a lot more education out there about the topic.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue, Erik. I know we've talked about my book before, and kind of in our community a lot, right? It's all about really having kind of a comprehensive wealth strategy, right? And not just one particular asset class or one particular investment, So share with us a little bit about, what is your personal wealth strategy that you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking and thinking of opportunities to create passive income. Um, I was very active several years ago in terms of acquiring assets and being very involved and active in managing those and sourcing those deals, and being active in the real estate investing community as well. But during that time period, and this is when I met you, I started to lean into what I was passionate about, which was creative, and being creative and creating for myself and for others. Whether that's branding, logos and websites, or social media, now podcasting. I got to a fork in the road, David, where it was like, okay, do I allocate all of my time into what I love and my superpower being creative? Do I go there and help to grow my business OnAir Brands, which is serving the real estate community, really, truly, like they needed it the most, more than I did. And then, or do I continue on the path on the left side where now I was moving into syndication? Like, I wanted to raise deals and raise capital, and moving very quickly into that space. This is 2017, 2018. And I decided I got to go to the right. I need to make money doing what I do best, even though I love what the passive side does for me, but I can continue to sort of stay connected. My entire network is real estate investors, if not good 90 to 95% of them. And the clients that we serve are all real estate investors. And I realized, if I build this asset, just like a multifamily, right? Hundreds of units, but it's called OnAir Brands, I could eventually sell this asset and still be an equity partner or be on the board or whatever it is, and have a liquidity event, a capital event. So that was one of my main strategies, if not the main strategy today. So as I continue to gain, passive income from my investments and private lending, I do that through my self-directed IRA. That's the most active I am today in terms of like looking at deals when people come and say, hey, I need 50 or I need 100K. But in terms of like all of my time being dedicated to building this asset and creating so much value in the marketplace, that one of our partners will eventually, and this is what I learned through having a podcast when I interviewed James Altucher, he said, you're most likely to be acquired by a company you're already working with and partnering with. And we have a lot of those big dogs as clients.
Yeah.
that are big multimedia agencies that need
Right.
us. And they eventually will come to us, hopefully, and say, hey, rather than us, hiring you, why don't we just acquire you
Yeah.
and partner up?
Yeah. Excellent. So, really a lot of the ultra wealthy, right? If you actually look at their portfolio, it's completely lopsided from what, typical wealth planners talk about, right? Which is putting everything in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So it sounds like you have about, 60% of your balance sheet is in your business as well as some of your syndications.
Well, I
Would that
also
be roughly?
yes, there's syndications, and then and we have a large portion of our wealth in stock as well.
You do. Okay.
Yes, so that is not being managed by me, clearly, but because I would lose it all, honestly, because I make very emotional decisions, and a large, much to the dismay of our financial advisors, a lot of it is in Tesla, which we've seen, we bought 4 or 5 years ago,
Hmm.
before the splits. So I'm very happy, but I know it's a risk. I know
Yeah.
that having 60% of our wealth in the portfolio being, riding on this one guy, basically. But that wasn't planned. But yeah, we get dividends from our stocks, which are nice. So and we get our cash flow from our properties. So there's that, but it hasn't gotten to the point. It's getting closer, honestly, Dave, to that financial freedom number. I have to double check. Sometimes people are financially free and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
That might be the case for us only because we have lowered our cost of living thanks to 2020. Like 2020, when we all got 2020'd, we really lowered.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we significant when we went back into our we use Mint now.
Uh-huh.
My wife and I I was like, oh wow, we significantly lowered our cost of living by like 30 or 40%.
Nice.
So yeah, it's going to get to that point where the financial freedom number is most likely there, or close to.
Yeah. Well, every time I hit that financial freedom number, I level it up. Say, we got to increase our cost of living expenses so that we can do more things, right? And
Yeah,
have a bigger impact. So I like to
100%.
make it dynamic because otherwise you have abundant complacency, is what I call it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So now that's really cool. So, Erik, do you have actually a personal vision statement?
I do. I do. It leans very heavily into the spiritual space. But yeah, if you're asking me to say it, I don't know it right off the top, but
Yeah,
I do have it
you
written
did.
down.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Says,
I do. It's on my wall, actually. Um,
okay, yeah, you can
so
share.
there's two. My company's mission is to make the world better one mic at a time, and we do that in various ways, right? Through podcasting, through interviews, through introductions, through speak the mic on a stage. I like
Hmm.
to speak on stage. I like to introduce folks like you to events that we're running or are a part of and partnering, things like that. So we make that impact. That is our mission. And then my personal mission, to be honest, here, and I'll read it to you, is my divine mission is to create confidence and inspire others to find happiness and love within themselves. That is really something that called to me during prayer meditation one morning that aligns with the company mission, where, especially during this whole, I referenced 2020 jokingly, but I feel like there has been a spiritual awakening. And I was one of those people that leaned into that for answers. And that's when it came to me, the sort of divine mission to sort of help people and um, find that they have it within themselves, like all the answers. You don't have to seek it. It's not external.
Right. And by creating that vision, did that create more clarity for you in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. It gave me clarity each and every day. It gave me clarity when faced with a challenge or an opportunity, to does this align with these goals? Does this align with these missions? And if it's a yes, then absolutely. But if it's a no, it's a quick, easy no. Like
Right.
comes with partners, friends, people in your life. Um, potential. I mean, there's a lot of people that will come to you and say, hey, I have an opportunity for you. But if it doesn't align with your personal goals and your mission statement, then yeah, it's easier to make those decisions.
Yeah. It's so powerful, Erik, because I think not enough people have really thought through a vision statement and really what that means. And that's why I like to kind of talk about holistic wealth, because really, wealth is, in my mind anyway, it's really more this path to almost self-actualization, right? So you get your financial security in place, and your protection for your family, right? Those are the basic needs that we have. And then as you kind of move on, there's other things that are important, right? Like your health, for instance. I mean, if and you talked about that, right? You were in a period where your health wasn't doing well. Meanwhile, your paycheck was strong, but your health wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. And then how are you going to support your family, friends, and others, right, if you don't have your health, right? So I think there's a lot of really key components that go into looking at things holistically. And it's so easy in this day and age to get just caught up in just being reactionary, right? And short-sighted, and all these short-sighted things that we have. But if you can take the time to create that vision statement as you have, it just creates so much clarity and intentionality in your life and the way you live your life. It's very powerful.
One thing, I appreciate all that, David. One thing I wanted to highlight is once you gain clarity on a mission statement, something like that, some GPS for you in your life, you will notice that you begin to attract those people and those opportunities when you put it out there, especially. I noticed that I am not around negative people. I am not around people who are out for themselves, who just want to take and with no thought of giving. And that is because of the clarity of my mission and putting it out there on shows like this, or just speaking, to my team, attracts more team members that align with that mission. So it does so many wonderful things when you put that work in.
Right. Right. And I think at the core of most entrepreneurs, it's really around freedom, right? So not only freedom of money, right, but freedom of purpose to do what it is that you want to do in life, freedom of relationship, right, to work with who it is you want to work with, and freedom of time as well. But you're so spot on with freedom of relationship, because I found it just so refreshing, just like you said, to be spending time, with folks that do align to your vision, and people who have, the right ethics, the right morals. They're on a similar mission. They're inspirational. They're not complaining. One of my rules is to have no complainers, in life. Right. Yeah. And when you can work with these kind of people, it's amazing, because your success really becomes inevitable, and it's just so much more rewarding. And I felt for myself, I felt that I really had lost that in corporate America once I left the Marine Corps, which was this huge sense of, mission and purpose. And then it was really lost, in corporate America. This is very short-sighted there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's hard when you're in that sort of bubble, because everyone is there for one specific reason typically, and that is a paycheck, right? The number two most addicting thing. I think it was Kiyosaki that said the two things that are most addicting in life are it's heroin and a weekly paycheck. And if that is your driving force, then you can't be focused on anything else, like being mission driven or having a greater purpose. That was the thing that was lacking for me. It was like, what the heck is my purpose here? I keep doing this. If I'm Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day, and it was right. over and over and over, and I don't feel I'm evolving. And I think it has a lot to do with, and now in hindsight, because I took this step when I was in my early to mid 40s. I just turned 50, by the way. And, people label that as a midlife crisis, but to me, it's a midlife opportunity to sort of recognize and reflect what the heck you've done over the past 50 years, 40, 50 years. And did you make an impact? Have you been a positive influence in people's lives, especially when you have kids? It's like, man, now it's really on me to be the shining light for them, so that when they grow up, they can continue that path, right? That my dad was this and my mom was this. And I didn't grow up with the tools that we have now to, financial education and literacy, and just the opportunities to expand and grow and know and become self-aware. That was a big thing, dude. Like lack of self-awareness in my household was massive, and lack of communication. We get in an argument in my house. We would just not talk for days. And then you'd have dinner one day and suddenly dad's talking, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay to talk now. Versus now, if someone has a blow up, or we talk about it in the moment. Say, hey, I understand you're upset, or daddy's upset, and these are the reasons why, and I didn't get much sleep, or worried about this or that. It's I think we're also coming into awakening in the households where we're more intelligent and intentional with what we're doing to raise better children.
Right. Have you formalized any type of family values, culture in the house?
So good. Thanks for asking that, man. Yes. I'll give it to you in two forms. First, you have to surround yourself with people. I'm a part of two organizations. You mentioned GoBundance, but I'm also in Front Row Dads. So big shout out to John Roman and Hal Elrod. Hal's the one that introduced me to the group, but I don't think he owns or runs it. But they introduced me during that very early on. The community there is big on this one book from Jim Shields called The Family Board Meeting. And what it does is sets a cadence for basically quarterly for all the corporate heads out there. So every 3 months, every 90 days, you meet with one of your children for 4 hours, complete digital detox, no phones. And you tell them, or you ask them, what do you want to do today? This is your day. You do what we do whatever you want. We go wherever you want. We eat whatever you want. And I am completely yours and engaged and present. That is the key, man. Be present. That's why we shut off all phones. So this, I've noticed, has changed the game. Like, we've been implementing the family board meeting. And when I say board meeting, the book is referencing a surfboard, right? Not a stuffy corporate conference room.
Yeah.
And it changed everything. My little girls look forward to that. Daddy, when's the next daddy-daughter day? And then when I'm away with one of them, we have 2 little girls. Then my wife is having mommy-daughter day with the other. And it creates this indelible, this memory for them forever, where they look forward to. I remember, like, they remember what we did. They remember the laughter. They remember all these little things. And during that day, when we do whatever we want, we always end it with a meal, right? Whether, sometimes it's ice cream, or sometimes it's this or that, where we go to a restaurant and we reflect on the day, right? Hey, my oldest is named Veronica. Veronica, what did you love about today? And this gets me, I don't want to get emotional. Every time, 100% of the time, she'll say, just being here with you today, Daddy, was the win. And then that is worth it, bro.
Right. That melts you.
Yeah, every time. And it's just wonderful. And the thing is, you have to read the book because you'll hear all the great stories of why you need to follow the formula, because most people be like, it's so good, I want to do it more. But it takes away what's special about it. Like, you need to create the build-up, anticipation. That's like having Christmas every day. The reason Christmas is so special is it's once a year. So that's why this flow of every 9, and put it on your calendar for us busy entrepreneurs. On my calendar, I block that Saturday morning to afternoon every 90 days for each one of them. That's been key. The second thing, David, and do you want me to stop there? And then
No, please go. Yeah.
The second thing that we've recently incorporated is the weekly family meetings. So I got to come up with I'm a marketing guy, so I got to come up with something cool in terms of branding for that. But right now we're calling it the family meeting. And every Sunday after brunch, we have I make pancakes, or I make some big breakfast. We'll get together and we have an agenda of like, okay, let's reflect on the week prior and what were the wins. What were some of the things that you could have done better? So everyone goes around the table and they state whatever win and what could you have done better. And then we go through an issues list. Like, okay, are there any issues that they're 8 and 5. So the little one's always like, Veronica kisses me too much and she doesn't ask for permission. It's always the same complaint.
Yeah.
So, but things are like that. But as they grow and become adults, they'll understand this is the place where I can now share my grievances or my wins. And it's a safe place for me, to have an open dialogue without being judged. Or if there's something bothering me, it's just a place for me to share. So we've created the family the meetings, and then in there, we're currently in the process of our core values. What are the Cabral family core values? And I have this, I highly recommend, it's not here, it's typically behind me, but Gary Keller wrote a book called The One Thing. Well, they have other things outside of the book, and one of them is the core values deck of cards. And there's literally like hundreds and hundreds of cards with words on it that say leadership or empathy or compassion, whatever it is. There's all these adjectives, and you spread them all out, and you start weeding it down from 100 to 50 to 20, and then I want to weed it down to 5. And to potentially 3, but 5 core values of the family, and you run it just like your company. Every time you make decisions, does that align with our values, right? Like faith is one of them. Like, does that decision that you're making, is that aligned with that one? And it's just like business, but now it applies to the family.
So powerful, Erik. I know people are really going to enjoy that. And it's so important. I mean, the age of your kids right now, I mean, mine are older, so it's harder to corral them. But when you can instill those values and get that in place at such an early age, it's really powerful, right? And then that's fuels your success. It drives you. It's aligned. Really, really inspirational. One of my goals is to build a family office, and I want to have the family office really centered around these core values and all of that structure. But I haven't heard that one of the board meeting, so I love that. And I'm going to check that one out for sure.
Yeah, man, it's a great book.
So
it's a quick read too. You can read it in like an hour, the most.
Yeah,
short.
Yeah, very nice. There's in Strategic Coach, I've learned, I think one of the challenges as entrepreneurs, right, is we always tend to, kind of be this rugged individual where we think we can do everything, right, and kind of better than everyone else. So it's a little bit of a curse and a blessing, but you find yourself doing things all the time. And, on weekends, I mean, I grew up, in an environment where it was all about working hard, and just, demonstrating that all the time. So whether that was chores and yard work around the house, I mean, if you were sitting down, you were kind of doing something wrong. Right. It was always about doing an effort. But in Coach, they have this concept that's really powerful. It's called having a free day, which is 24-hour period where you literally don't read one business book, you don't answer one email, you don't answer one business text, and you're completely for 24 hours, not engaged in business and 100% focused on your family, your spouse, whatever it is you're doing at that time. And it's amazing. It took me years to actually, try to perfect that and be able to, actually give yourself permission to unplug from work a little bit. But what it does is it really trains you like an athlete so that you get this super restorative regeneration during that period of time. And you go back to work on Monday just so much more energized, right? Because you've had that real quality time and your technology unplugged, with your family or your spouse. And it's amazing. I've really been able to, foster the relationships with family and friends, a lot better by being dedicated, being present, as you say. So, it's interesting, right? These, some of these places that you can go.
Yeah. I mean, I've become very aware of, this is recent too, creating boundaries. Like as a startup, I got into and even when I was in corporate America, I never really established boundaries. I was always very open and loving and, come one, come all, you can come on my doorstep, unannounced, and you spend the night, and I'll cook you, we'll barbecue, whatever. Right. But the thing is, it set a tone and an expectation, even from not just friends and family, but clients, right? That can step into your world and call you on a Saturday. And if that's part of your non-boundary sort of expectation that you have set, that can be detrimental. That can be hurtful in the long term. And that's something that I started to realize over time, that I need to create boundaries. I don't pick up the calls. I see clients or friends that are, in the space, but it's still in the business space. I won't pick up the Saturday calls. I'm here with my family. I'm engaged and I want to be present. And I see a missed call. We'll talk on Monday, or here's the weird thing, David. And I think this also happened with 2020 is I moved away from having a personal assistant. Like I had a physical personal assistant that worked for me for many years in my town. She was a retired exec. She won Emmys, for soap operas. She was brilliant. And when she left, I was like, what am I going to do? And I got introduced to Calendly, and I started sending it to our friends, and many of them. And they're like, who are you sending me a Calendly link? And now everyone uses it, and that has just changed the game, because now on my phone, if someone wants to meet, here's a 15-minute link, and get on my calendar, and then weeks, sometimes months are all booked out. And it's great, right? Creates the boundaries and expectations that are needed to have balance in life, right? And understand that we can't do it all. We can't continuously work without burning out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's the boundaries are really key to create some control and structure, and also it's really a productivity hack as well, right? By time boxing the different things that you do. And, I think the best way to think about it is just, think about elite level performers, whether you're going on stage in theater or you're, performing in some major athletic event. And what do they have, right? They have three different phases. They have a phase where they're resting and recovering. That's all they focus on. Mm-hmm. They have a phase where they're in preparation, right? And then they have a competition phase, right? Yeah. So our competition for us is, whatever, running our businesses. But if you don't factor in that preparation time or that rejuvenation time and time block it, you become a little less effective, right? All the way through. So Erik, let's segue into your business. I mean, tell us what's going on with OnAir Brands. What would you like to share with everyone right now? You guys have had some amazing success, and maybe you can even talk about, the model right now. I know Gary Vee still involved with that. So
yeah. I mean, well, Gary, we produce one of his C-suite chief heart officer, Claude Silver's podcast. We're very proud of that. And in terms of like, I don't know how, but I'm on weekly to I'd say at this point they're bi-weekly marketing calls, and I love being a part of the Vaynerverse, they call it, because they have their finger on the pulse constantly in every aspect of branding and marketing and creating content. So I'm privileged to be in the room with with heavy hitters, and CMOs typically are the ones that are in the room. Like the CMOs of Scotch or Land Rover or Apple even. Sometimes I'm in the room and I'm like, how did I get here? Here I am, this little guy on OnAir Brands, and there's all these massive corporations that are in there learning just as I am. They're very heavy in TikTok, by the way. Not that Gary owns any stock in TikTok, but anyway.
Yeah.
What we've learned is always trickled down to our clients, is always shared with strategies or implemented slowly and test driving through what we learned through big dogs like Vayner. But OnAir Brands has gotten very focused, very, very focused on podcast launches and the production on a weekly basis and all the social media promotions for every episode. When I gained that clarity, David, because you met me, that was something we did, but I didn't really talk about it. We do events, we do this, we do live streams, we do this. And that's where the serial entrepreneur thing kind of like makes me feel that was a version of me that was unfocused. Because once we gained clarity on the mission, that opened the door for clarity on what we do. And from there, it 10x the business. Now, people, I don't say that to humble brag in any way, because it's a blessing and a curse. It comes with a whole host of challenges that you can't foresee. You can talk to someone that's gone from 6 to 7 to 7 to 8 figures. You'll understand it, but you won't know it until you're in the trenches and you're in the game. So now we're implementing EOS. That wasn't a plan. Anyone knows Gino Wickman's traction, rocket fuel, all that. We were holding off on that till 2023, and now we're implementing it now because of the growing pains that we've had, which is great. You know, it's very rigid for a creative person like myself, but my COO loves it. She loves it, so it's great. And we're reevaluating our core values, which have been in place for 4 or 5 years. So they're kind of, some of them are irrelevant now, or don't speak to us now because we've changed. So yeah, it's huge. We're blessed to be in the space we're in.
Yeah, that's really excellent. And any other kind of offshoots of that, or so are you still doing PodMax events? Any other?
Yeah, well, that was where the lack of focus comes in. We still do the occasional event for our group GoBundance. So we partnered with GoBundance this year to do their global events. And that was a version of, you were part of the live PodMax experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it looked like, but not our event, someone else's. And it's great, because we get to serve, we get to meet, we get to do what we do best in the real estate investing space mostly. Yeah. There's a lot of people in GoBundance, and for those who don't know what GoBundance is, it's a mastermind group of successful individuals that all want to hold each other accountable, live bucket life adventures, have balance in life and health and wealth and family. So I love it. I've been there for two or 3 years, and just being able to help that community with my company has been great. But it's not a focused type of thing for us. It's not something that we're going to create as a business for ourselves or for others.
Sure. And can you just tell, for people not familiar with, PodMax and the specifics, can you kind of share what that model looks like?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun when we were doing it. We're not doing them anymore. It did evolve it went from live to virtual during 2020 and 2021, but we've paused all activities on that company because it was the lack of focus, right? We have one team. We didn't have two. So it was like, do we either have an events team or do we have a creative and production team? So that was the other fork in the road. So we had to transition all of our services and all of our focus and talent to creating podcasts. But what that was a live experience for you to step in to a room of, I'll call them influencers, right? A lot of podcasters that we know and love, like MC Lobster, Cashflow Ninja. We had Matt Faircloth and Liz Faircloth there of DeRosa Group and Real Estate Invest Her. And people would get the opportunity to meet them face to face, be on their podcast and show, and then get a lot of social media and video assets out of it. And it was great, and it was a great opportunity, right? When we would have the pause and the lunch together, so it became somewhat of a mastermind and community in and of itself. And then we took it virtually, and that's where everything exploded for us because of the connections we started to have with the Vayners of the world, and getting them on our virtual stage opened the door for us to partner and work with a lot of big people that we wouldn't have met. But yeah, we've paused activity on that just to focus on the podcast launches and production.
Focus is the best way to scale, for sure. Yeah. And how about from a productivity standpoint? I know you're a productivity junkie like myself. What are you focused on lately, Erik, that you're seeing the most gains?
Yeah, sales, sales, and then marketing. Is also critical, the yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. But when I focused on who I can serve and who I can help and identifying the people that fit the criteria. They call it avatar in our space, in marketing.
Sure.
That was the game changer. Truly, you can do all the PR and all the marketing that you want, but if you don't focus on communicating to the people that you can help that don't know your existence, that could hurt you long term. And I started to see that. I started to be very focused on my speaking engagements. So I speak on stages. I'm writing a book about personal branding called Be Your Brand. I was very unfocused, David. And when I realized, oh, I'm not focusing on sales at all, that's when you start to see the dip. And when you pay attention to the numbers, and sales is critical. That's a lesson learned that I recently sort of started to focus on lately.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. And if you could just give one piece of advice to listeners about how could they accelerate their wealth and really live the life that they want to live, what would it be? Clarity
and focus, and write these things down and hold yourself accountable. That's been extremely helpful for me to write down my goals, and not too far out in advance. I'm talking weekly goals, 30-day goals, 90-day goals, and focus on that and the micro steps to get there, and then focus on the macro every once in a while. But being able to document your steps to success and holding yourself accountable, surrounding yourself with people, having business partners that hold yourself accountable. Don't surround yourself with yes men and yes women. Someone that's actually going to tell you, call you out on your, I don't know if I could swear in this, your crap, and not afraid that they'll get fired. Encourage that within your team. That tell me like it is, because my ego doesn't exist. So I don't know. I packaged a lot of stuff in there, but yeah, focus and clarity, the main two things.
I love it. No, it was actually very succinct. It was a focused comment. Sometimes people take 10 minutes explaining it, but you gave it a lot of clarity. So I like that. Well done, Erik.
Thank you.
Erik, it's been so awesome having you on today. Really enjoyed the discussion. I know everyone's going to get a ton of value out of it. If anyone would like to, learn more about, what you're doing with OnAir Brands, wants to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, I want to give your audience something, especially if you're thinking about a podcast or you already have one. I highly recommend that you still download this PDF. So if you go to ericcabral.co/guide, and my name is spelled with a K, so ERIK, ericcabral.co/guide. I have a podcast do's and don'ts. And David, I don't think you've downloaded this yet, but I highly recommend you do. And in there, you'll see everything I've collected over the years of podcasting. And I've had probably close to 1,000 conversations. There's just stuff in there that I don't think is out there in the metaverse yet. But yeah, download that guide. That's free. There's actually a link to book with me. I'm not pushing you to do that. No pressure to do that, but that is there as well if you want to have a conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today, Erik. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me.
You bet.